Hello, and welcome back to our Scrum Study course on a guide to the Scrum body of knowledge. We're in Module 2, and we've just finished learning about value-based prioritization as a Scrum principle. In this session, we're going to learn what time boxing is and why it's so critical to the Scrum methodology. Scrum treats time as one of the most important constraints in managing a project. To address the constraint of time, Scrum uses a concept called time boxing, in which a certain amount of time is allotted for each process and activity in a Scrum project. This ensures that Scrum team members don't self-assign too much or too little work during a sprint, and that they don't spend their time and energy on work for which they have little clarity. Some advantages of time boxing are efficient development process, less overheads, and high velocity for teams. Time boxing is utilized in many Scrum processes. For example, in the Conduct Daily Stand-Up process, the duration of the daily stand-up meeting is time-boxed to 15 minutes. This gives everyone just enough time to give 3 pieces of critical information and no more. What I did yesterday, what I will do today, and what, if any, impediments I'm facing. If a team knows they should be offering this and only this information, then the meeting is unlikely to run longer due to time-draining digressions. Time boxing is also useful in avoiding excessive improvement or gold plating of an item. One note of caution here. Arbitrary time boxing can lead to demotivation of the team and may have the consequence of creating an apprehensive environment, so it should be used appropriately. Let's look more specifically at how time boxing is applied in Scrum. First, a sprint is a time-boxed iteration lasting 1 to 6 weeks, during which the Scrum Master guides, facilitates, and shields the Scrum team from both internal and external impediments. This aids in avoiding vision creep that could affect the sprint goal. During this time, the team works to convert the requirements in the prioritized product backlog into shippable product functionalities. To get maximum benefits from a Scrum project, it's always recommended to keep the sprint time box to 4 weeks, unless they're projects with very stable requirements, where sprint can extend up to 6 weeks. Second, the daily stand-up meeting, which is the short daily meeting we mentioned earlier. Time boxed to 15 minutes, the team members gather to report the progress of the project by answering the following 3 questions. What did I complete yesterday? What will I complete today? What impediments or obstacles, if any, am I currently facing? This meeting is carried out by the team as part of the Conduct Daily Stand-Up process. Next is the Sprint Planning Meeting. This meeting is conducted prior to the sprint as part of the Create Sprint Backlog process. It's time-boxed to 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. The Sprint Planning Meeting is divided into 2 parts. First, objective definition. During the first half of the meeting, the product owner explains the highest priority user stories or requirements in the prioritized product backlog to the Scrum team. The Scrum team, in collaboration with the product owner, then defines the sprint goal. Second, task estimation. During the second half of the meeting, the Scrum team decides how to complete the selected prioritized product backlog items to fulfill the sprint goal. At times, the task planning meetings, which are conducted during the Create Task process, and the task estimation meetings, which are conducted during Estimate Tasks process, are also referred to as sprint planning meetings. While the sprint planning meeting is conducted before the sprint review meeting is conducted after the sprint. It's time-boxed for 4 hours for a 1-month sprint. During the sprint review meeting that's conducted in the Demonstrate and Validate Sprint process, the Scrum team presents the deliverables of the current sprint to the product owner. The product owner reviews the product or product increment against the agreed-upon acceptance criteria and either accepts or rejects the completed user stories. Retrospect Sprint Meeting. The Retrospect Sprint Meeting is time-boxed to 4 hours for a 1-month sprint and is conducted as part of the Retrospect Sprint process. During this meeting, the Scrum team gets together to review and reflect on the previous sprint in terms of the processes followed, tools employed, collaboration and communication mechanisms, and other aspects relevant to the project. The team discusses what went well during the previous sprint and what didn't go well, the goal being to learn and make improvements in the sprint that follows. Some improvement opportunities or best practices from this meeting could also be updated as part of the Scrum Guidance Body documents. And this brings us to the end of our session on the Scrum principle of time boxing. I look forward to seeing you in our next session on the principles of Scrum. Until then, goodbye, and thank you for learning with us.